Mm. Hi there.
Hey, hello there.
I hope the microphone's okay because I'm in nature and it's a little windy, but I think it's not too bad.
Not too bad. I can kind of hear you. I love the sounds of the birds in your background.
It's good, yes.
hmm
I love the bird's presence too.
Yes. And you can hear me okay, Elisabeth?
Yeah, very good.
Beautiful. Thank you for coming on, Thank you for just making the time, spending the time. And it's Elisabeth, Karin, Susanna. What do your friends call you?
Just Elisabeth. That's my full kind of birth name. My parents gifted me those three names, but Elisabeth is perfectly fine, yeah.
So you only go by Elisabeth?
Mostly, actually, yes. Yes.
Okay. Okay, beautiful, beautiful. So that's the full name you said your parents gave you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And where in the world are you, Elisabeth?
Right now, I'm in sunny Liverpool. Yeah.
Liverpool. And is that
Yeah.
that's England?
That's in the UK, exactly.
Awesome. Awesome. I've never been to the UK. Not yet.
Right.
Not yet.
You're in Texas? Did I
At the
see that?
moment, yeah, at the moment I'm in Texas, USA. We're out here. It's a nice sunny day out here. I'm gonna enjoy it in a second. I'll be out there in nature, you know.
Wonderful.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's very interesting how we found each other, and I feel like we have similar journeys. You said that you just randomly you typed in something.
Yeah, exactly. And that was the first video that came up was a conversation with you, and I think probably your past partner from how the dynamic was between you two. Um, and I think maybe it was not the first in the listing, but the first that resonated, and where I just clicked on it and was like, I loved like the energy that you spread, and that I could feel and just resonated straight away. And for me, it was then a total surprise to receive an actual message from you the day after. It was like, that came totally out of the blue. And, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I should at least put forth the effort, to reach out. If someone's gonna take the time to press the button, then I should press the button, you know?
Mm, I see.
Yeah,
That's
yeah. So
very respectful and loving. Yeah.
absolutely. And speaking, Elisabeth, of the energy that we spread, the
Mm-hmm.
positivity that you're spreading on your platform, and
Mm.
projecting out there into the world, like how long would you say that you've been on this particular journey that you're in right now? Like what would you call this path?
In a way, I feel like it's my life journey, but like there were some significant turning points, which were about um, maybe 7 years ago.
Mm,
And from then, it's just been a continuous evolution. Will still be like there's nowhere to arrive in that sense for me. Like it's arriving in the continuous journey, I guess. But yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
So what was that thing that happened that was really significant 7 years?
It's a bit of an interesting one in that sense. Like I'm still very young. 7 years ago, I was even younger. I am 23 now, so I was about as a teenager, I struggled with depression, with eating disorder, um, especially with like bulimia, and I had like kind of regarded connecting with that. I had and I also used substances like cannabis, like I was smoking, and I had like just just in a way, just from one day to the other, those turning points where I was like, okay, I need to stop everything. I need to stop all those self-harming behaviors without me at that time being even would have been in the position to name them as such, and kind of took a leap in a way. So I stopped smoking, I stopped drinking, I stopped smoking weed, and I also stopped the bulimia from one day to the other because I was like, okay, now it was like a little a little kind of hang up in that sense. I just had like a normal cold, but because of that like behavior of continuously putting pressure on my throat. I could not heal that cold, and I was like, okay, that was enough for me to make that decision, to take that leap of, okay, stop now. And I don't want this anymore. I want to be healthy and I want to live. Kind of, it was really just, I don't know, coming from wherever. Spirit, I would say now, I would say that probably was my soul kind of waking up and calling me to change and to connect with myself again. So
Wow.
that were very significant moments, and also around that same time, I also had that transition of deciding to live a vegan lifestyle, that I don't want to harm any animals, and that I want to be more compassionate with the world as well. Kind of the compassion with myself and the compassion with the world kind of both started off together in a way, and kind of bounced back and forth.
Yeah.
So many layers to that, especially with all the years that have passed now, of deepening the understanding of all of those things.
Wow, Elisabeth, thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing the transition, and it sounds like a transformation. Like you said, it was like a soul awakening.
Yeah, in some sense, I think that really was the case. Yeah.
Okay. So awakening your soul, when you speak of things like, bulimia, if nobody had ever heard of that term, how would you describe it?
Binging and purging. But also connected for me and for many people with, for example, with sports addiction, with a huge, the whole eating disorder, the whole body dysmorphia frame, the whole trying to control, in a way, it's also a typical trauma response. It's trying to control something. When you feel out of control in life, in every way, you try to, you feel like the only thing you can control in some way is how you eat, is your body, and you try to do that through controlling your eating in a way, and then you have those phases of binging, or where you eat, and it might not even be a binge, just where you eat and you feel like you want to be empty. It can also be, also now from deeper from understanding from now, maybe many of us, and I too, struggle to really arrive on Earth. And eating is like the most earthy thing in some way. And it's an ambivalent dance between going into this heaviness of Earth, engaging with that, but then feeling like I want to be light again and releasing.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Great example, and that's actually a great metaphor, a great analogy for eating and for the levels of consumption that we're accustomed to. I definitely was, myself, and I'm resonating a lot with your journey, because I don't hear a whole lot of people using that term earthy when they talk about food, but it really is grounding, It's
like, what more earthy can you do than eat something that is grown on this earth? Like, seriously.
It is. It makes total sense. It really does. It tethers you. It really does ground you to the earth. It's coming from the earth. And, there were so many times that I didn't even know of that term bulimia, but it was only until I did my first dry fast, I went in dry fast. And I mean, I had gotten rid of so much. My body had detoxed to a level where I was without food and water for 2 weeks or so. And after that point, when I did go back to food and I introduced something back into my system, I was so sensitive that my whole body was like, what are you doing? It was like, are you crazy? Are you mad? My body was, completely rejecting this. And then went the guilt and the shame and the blame and all of those games. And that was a downward spiral of continuous. I mean, I went into binging and purging, I was binging, I was purging, I was eating, I was throwing up, I was eating, I was vomiting. And it just was an up and down roller coaster over and over again. And that had never happened in like 28 years of my life. That had never happened, you know? So it was crazy to just to reflect back on that. And you're bringing me back down memory lane. So just thank you for that, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that was a tough cycle to really transcend, you know? That was tough. So what would you say ultimately was the thing that really brought you out of that and launched you into a new lifestyle?
Oh, wow. I can't really, it's really hard to put it down on one thing, because it was like, you know how it is. The more you go into those directions, the more things just come to you. And it's like, yeah. I think a big part over the course of all those years has played for me, just kind of in a way, in with many different things, deepening or working on the connection to my body and myself, and also the understanding of my psychology, like for example, understanding trauma, personal trauma, collective trauma, and realizing how many, psychology, also very much the layer of emotions, because that's like, I'm a very emotionally sensitive person. I feel a lot. I feel a lot also from other people, and it's also like a bit scattered in my answer, but like on keeping on that layer with emotions, that the emotions are also, for me, have been a big reason of like why, for example, why I also struggled with eating so much, because I wouldn't know any other way to cope with my emotions, and kind of eating my emotions and eating the challenges up to be able to digest them physically. Like I feel like there's a very, very strong connection to food as well, to our emotional and mental health there. But that in a way leads to, I guess, the biggest thing for me is that understanding of psychosomatics, for example, as a term, like understanding the dynamic between body, mind, emotions, and then also soul, like to be seeing life in my body, seeing myself as a holistic being, and exploring all of those layers.
Yeah.
And I've done that with many different techniques. I've studied yoga, I've studied meditation, I've studied shamanism, herbalism, nutrition, all of those things, because it was just like I needed that to become more understanding of all of myself and of what was going on with.
Yeah. So becoming just well-rounded, like really becoming whole, like remembering, putting the pieces back together, and just being a more complete holistic.
It sounds very easy, but it's still, sometimes it's like when I engage with something new, and then it's like I get a new kind of puzzle piece of understanding about myself, and then it's like kind of back loop and realizing, oh, that's connected to that and that and that and that and that and that. Okay. It's not always in the middle of it that I know it. It takes time to get there, to realize those interconnected dynamics and layers.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, you remind me, Elisabeth. I remember there was a quote by Steve Jobs talking about how, you know, we never usually connect the dots looking forward, but we usually always connect those dots when we reflect back. You know, when we reflect,
Yeah.
say hindsight is usually 2020. We can see where everything kind of was in alignment. Everything kind of led to something else that led to something else. Like, oh, that makes sense. You know? Yeah. So it
That
within.
helps with being patient with what is.
Say it again.
That helps with being patient with what is in the present, because sometimes that can also be very challenging.
Right. you know, and you're definitely up to the task. You're up to the challenge, because with more reflection, we see more connection when it comes to these. And like you were saying, something about psychosomatic, that's also I don't hear often, but it sounds like with what I saw on your page, it said like somatic integration. Is that right? So, what is that?
For me, like, just the term psychosomatics in short is like realizing that connection, that when something is in my body, when something's happening in my body, like for example, maybe you hear it now, I have a bit of a flu, like my nose is a bit clogged, like I have mucus moving through me, and realizing that is not just my body wanting to give me a hard time, but that it is doing this for a reason, and that this is usually connected with other layers, that it's not just connected with, oh, did I got cold feet the other day or whatever, you know, but that it's about inner things that happen. In my particular case, it's something, it's energetic. That's like the layer where I'm at the moment, that I realize more and more how that's kind of a whole new level of to bring into this conversation. Okay, I mentioned trauma earlier. I've experienced trauma in my life, and I have been working on healing from this trauma, and through realizing that it was there, through realizing how it impacted me, and also through realizing, oh wow, that's kind of on that note of how it impacted me, that there's a lot of numbness that has been in me. And also, again, a layer to the eating, to the eating behavior of binging and purging. It's like making me feel my body, like because you know, numbness is a trauma response where when something is too intense, it's like you can compare it to an outer body experience, just not in a nice way that you have in your new revelation, but that something is so intense that your system, whatever you want to call it, can't stay fully in this place, and then a part of you kind of disconnects from that, dissociates. That's the term in psychology, and then that can lead to you not being able to feel anymore, to feel intense situations, or also to feel not intense situations. You get kind of disconnected, numbed to life, and reconnecting to whatever it is, like basically anything, reconnecting. That's for me also a big keyword on my pathway, reconnection. And in a way, that's what it's all about. Reconnection to self, to earth, to spirit, to life. And I got myself a bit out of like, which direction was I heading? The numbness. Where was I coming from? Can you help me?
Yeah, we were talking about the somatic integration.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the somatic means, and also speaking of this trauma, of like trauma, or let's use a different term, intense conditioning.
Okay.
An intense experience that makes you react in a certain way. So you've probably heard of fight, flight, freeze before, haven't you?
Yes. Yes.
That's kind of the reaction of our kind of animal part body to stress situations, to intense situations. So when we have those experiences, what I just explained, that where part of us kind of leaves, it's also usually that we react in one of those ways. We try to fight it, we try to run away, or we freeze. For me personally, it is to freeze. I just recently had a situation where a deep layer of my conditioning kind of came up, and I just felt that absolute powerlessness. It was just like frozen in a situation and could not be there as an adult, kind of handling and maneuvering myself out. And so the somatic comes in after that. Just stick with that example. For about an hour, I was crying, I was shaking, I was moving, because my body held in that moment. It froze. It's like a lot of tension that gets stuck.
Yeah.
And that if I don't release it, that is exactly what leads me to feeling numb, to not being able to feel, because I hold, and then I stop feeling. Maybe you notice when you whatever, when you clench your fist, or maybe, for example, when you started meditating, you set a meditation pose and you had like this constant pressure on your foot, and after an hour you stand up and you don't feel your feet, right? You're numb. Kind of like that. You get numb, and then how do you get yourself to feeling again? And that's a whole journey, and that's where the somatic comes in. Releasing those energies that we're not even aware of, that are stored in us physically, of experiences that we were not able to work with, to cope with, to energies. You know, energy is or emotion. Energies are emotions, or other way around. Our emotions are energies, and they get stuck. And to bring them back into movement, to be healthy, and to be able to live and to feel life and enjoy life. And it's for me it's a very important and part of kind of the conscious way of living I try to approach. And also a continued journey of melting inner ice.
Okay, so like defrosting, melting it.
Yeah. The numbness can also we can also compare it with ice. Like,
Okay.
Defrosting.
Wow. I love these comparisons. So, you know, with this practice, you know, these, so what is one of the somatic practices, or one of the practices that you enter into to be able to cope not only with your own trauma, but when you take on collective trauma, you know, how do you cope with that?
It's a good question. Because it's not always like a one rule fits all. But for me, like a very simple somatic practice that I think is extremely powerful for basically anybody is shaking.
Shaking.
Yes.
Like just
shaking. Like last time when I was in your qigong, and I was like, I can't shake because our flat is. Yeah, but shaking, absolutely. Yeah, that's a go-to practice. And what also on my personal path has been very healing, but kind of led up to like until I got there, it was already a journey in itself, is dancing. I don't know, maybe you've heard of things like ecstatic dance or conscious dance or 5 rhythms dance, where you kind of get guided through a journey of connecting with the elements in the music and with the elements in your body. But basically it can also just be you putting a song on and you move out whatever it is you feel right now. You let that music move through you, and let the music move you, because the music is also an energy kind of that you already choose. Like, depending on the music you choose a certain energy that you bring into your system. So it's also interesting to be aware of, for example, which kind of music you naturally choose. That gives an information about which energy is predominantly moving through you. If you always feel drawn to like hardcore Goa, you know, maybe you should balance your fire a bit, because it's just staccato. So
what music do you usually feel drawn to? What usually catches your fancy when it comes to that?
It's a hard one to answer for me at the moment, to be honest. I've had very different phases in my life. Also, music as a whole part of my being, a whole story itself. At the moment, I guess watery or airy or earthy music. Meaning to say, either, for example, air would be more like singing bowls, cymbals, like relaxing, kind of spacious sounds. Earth is kind of could be like world music. Water uh, hmm, I don't quite have an idea for a genre right now. There's some songs in mind.
Watery.
Yeah, yeah, maybe, but just very kind of fluid things.
Fluid.
Yeah. It's also interesting, like if you look in how a person moves, it also reflects kind of the energy, because fire already kind of show with that movement. It's like if you have fire, there's a lot of, like, for example, stamping, that you feel that heaviness, that like, yeah, it's like this really like a force of being here. It's that life force. And then you have the air, which is more like a lot with the hands, but not really, not that round. That's more water, like spiral circles, flowy movements. But air is more like, yeah, like you become the wind. How do you move when you become the wind? And it's
Wow.
usually a bit softer. And the earth is kind of like maybe more. Like the earth is kind of, you are moving, but you're not moving like heavily, like jumping around or anything, but you're like still very kind of profoundly moving. I can't quite put like a specific movement into it right now, but maybe you still kind of get a feel for it. What I
Yeah,
mean.
I think like almost like tribal movement, you know, when I think, but I mean, I love this
Yeah.
description, Elisabeth, when you're talking about the elements. You know, I never heard anybody, you know, usually when I ask somebody, you know, what kind of music do you favor? What kind of music do you fancy? You might hear say, oh, you know, I enjoy, you know, the violin, the saxophone. I like jazz, R&B. I like pop. But not every day that I hear say, oh, you know, watery music, airy music, fire music,
I think it's because
earth
we just
music.
came from, yeah,
I
from that
love that.
part that was linked to that in my head.
That's
I can
awesome.
also tell you, oh, I like classical, I like jazz, I like
No, but what you said was perfect.
mantra.
Yeah,
But yeah.
perfect. Yeah, because you're talking about the elements, and you know, it makes me feel like you have such a connection with the elements. Would you say?
Yeah, I'm a absolute nature person. Like if you go on a walk with me, I'll tell you, like I'll be like, oh, have you seen that flower? And oh, the bird there, and oh, look, there's this plant growing. Did you know you can eat that? And oh, you can use it for healing in this. So yeah, yeah,
Wow,
yeah.
wow.
And at the same time,
Mm-hmm.
I still struggle with grounding and with being fully in this earth. It's like a mystery to myself sometimes. But
Okay, okay. So it's still, you said it's still a mystery how you still struggle with that, even though you have that connection sometimes.
yeah, that love and that need and that, yeah, awareness for it.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know, when you were talking to me at one point, you were telling me how you discovered in this part of your journey how not just everything is food, but how elements are food, you know? Everything is food and the elements are food. What did you mean by that when you were talking about?
I mean that, probably most people have heard about like stuff like sun gazing. Like I mean that exposing us to an element, to walking barefoot on the earth, to sitting in the sun and feeling the sun on our skin, to feeling the air, to going into a stream, to walking through water, that it's nourishing ourselves. It's our bodies engaging with this bigger body of earth that we're living on and that we're living as a part of. And we are nourished through this connection. And in a way, every connection, every engagement, everything we do, everything we read, everything we engage with is something that either nourishes us or takes from us. And in that way, it's a food. It is feeding something within.
Yes, yes. I agree. I agree. You know, there's so many levels of consumption. We're always eating, you know, in a way, you know. something is always feeding us. And I like how you said, you know, if we're always eating, it's like it can either be depleting or
Yeah.
it can be nourishing. You know, we can be flourishing with what we're,
Mm-hmm.
you know, even if it's just like new information, you know, how something
Yeah,
like food.
definitely.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's also where we have to be aware with what do we consume?
Yeah.
How do we use this gift? And yet that also, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that gift of technology. I wanted to say, I wanted to put a word for the kind of challenging part of it, but I don't quite find a word that's on point. But it's like it is full of opportunities, but we really have to make an effort to choose what to take in, because it can either distract us or it can make us thrive.
Yes.
And it's also again, we eat a lot of our emotions. So how does something make you feel? And
Mm-hmm.
choose based on that. Does it make you feel sad, angry, guilty, ashamed, afraid? Then maybe look into, if it's like, look into why does it make you feel that way? Of course, it's a nice invitation, but maybe not only consume that. Maybe not only watch news that are scaring you, but engage with something that inspires you to live
Yeah.
and to make a change, or to maybe, if you have that part that is scared to, or let's say the world is in a very challenging situation, okay, you realize that through seeing things in the news, then don't despair, but look for someone that inspires you to become active, because that was also a big thing on my journey. It's like, since being very young, I always had this, like, I mean, as many people do, that like I want to change the world. So, and kind of, it's so interesting to see how this changed through me changing. So when I was like 13, I wanted to become a lawyer. Okay, cool. That was me thinking, this is how I can change the world. Then I became like super passionate about nature, animals, all of that. And then I wanted to learn organic farming and thought, okay, farming, that's how I'm going to change, how I can change the world. And at some point I realized, wow, no matter what I believe, like, I can only change the world through changing myself and my own actions, and through inspiration. I do believe that inspiration is the most powerful force of change in this world. And yeah,
Yes.
that we should use it wisely,
Yeah.
what we are inspired by, and that we should inspire as much as we can. And it's so nice that you do that with your work, and that
Wow.
maybe I can inspire someone right now too.
You
Who
are.
knows?
You are, like, in this very moment, like right now, you are, you know, you're inspiring me. Like, you
Yay!
know? And you're
And
inspiring.
I also know that, like, I'm so glad in that sense. Like, all those changes I've made, I can even see how strongly they've inspired even the closest people, which sometimes are the most difficult cases to inspire. Like, my parents have made so many changes in their lifestyle
Mhm.
just through me making those changes, and through, obviously, because they were open to that. But like, that was actually something that really made me believe in the power of inspiration, because I could see, like, again, speaking about food, and because food is also a lot about culture, about connection. We eat to connect. It's a ritual that we have in our families to come together to share a meal, and we eat specific meals that are connected with what we grew up with. And especially if we eat foods like yogurt, like bread, like sauerkraut, everything that is fermented, there is a living culture in that.
Mm.
We eat that culture, and we cultivate that culture in our microbiome every time we eat those foods.
Mm.
So, yes, the story with, and how proud I am of the change in my family. It's like, my dad always has been like a heavy meat eater. Like, he grew up like that. He loved his, like, whatever, chicken, pork, whatever, like all those things. And I grew up with a lot of that too. And like already quite early, I made the shift to a vegetarian, which also I had always that nice balance in some way that my mum always was more like interested in vegetarianism and health. And if it would have been for her, we probably would not have needed any meat. But because of that, like it was always present. And through me becoming vegetarian and then vegan, I also inspired my mum to stand in her truth more, to live the way she wanted to live in that sense. And she's now also has been vegan for many years. And my dad is like, he's not labeled vegetarian or vegan, but he basically eats a plant-based diet with having meat maybe once a week if he craves something or if he wants to treat him. But like that from someone, like he always identified himself as a meat-eating plant. It's like such a beautiful transition to witness. And it's again with standing in my own truth, with being patient and loving and letting the other one have their own journey. I think that's also such a big one when in living with anybody, and such a hard one sometimes. But yeah, but I do believe that when we really stand in our truth, as hard as it sometimes is, we can change a lot and we can inspire a lot.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I agree, Elisabeth. You know, you remind me, one of my mentors told me that an acronym for the word love is letting others voluntarily evolve, you know?
Oh, that's beautiful.
And it's like what you're doing, you know, with whenever you change your perception and have that patience and that presence, you can change others in your close proximity, you know?
Mm-hmm.
You're letting others voluntarily evolve with love. Just like,
yeah.
You know, if you see a flower and, you know, you like a flower, you just pluck the flower, right? And put the flower, you know, you like it, so you just pluck it, you take it, you don't really. But I mean, if you love a flower, you know, you don't have to harm the flower. You can water the flower, you can gaze at the flower, observe the flower, you can appreciate and be grateful for that flower right where it is, you know, and just let the flower grow on its own timing, in its own perfect timing, you know. Yeah, thank you for having the courage to be able to do that, because I know that's not always easy, especially with our loved ones who, you know, best for them. They just want the best for us. Everybody just wants the best, you know. Yeah.
Who knows, whatever that is.
Right.
Only we can know for ourselves in the moment what is true right now. That's the only truth there is.
Yeah. So, and also thank you for that message, Elisabeth, on inspiration, because I do believe that when you are inspired, somehow you are in spirit, you know.
Yes.
When you are inspired, like that breath of life, breath is flowing through you, you know, the inspiration, and it rubs off on so many people. It's very contagious in the best possible way, you know. Yeah. So who would you say was that person? Because you talked about how somebody can inspire you to movement or inspire you in that way. Who was that person for you?
It's a good question again. I think I had different inspirations over the time. I can say relatively recently. Sometimes it's also interesting. Sometimes it's not quite answering your question, but it just comes up. Sometimes we just need someone around us who has a different set of ideas. And even if they're not 100% living up to the ideas or the ideals they carry, even just through being exposed to those ideals through their presence, they can spark in us, and we can live them. For me that's been the case. Last year I've met my partner, and he is not like, before that I've been living kind of a whole foods plant-based diet, a lot of like increasing raw a lot, and but like coming from a bit of a different angle at that time, and somehow on our on our travels and through meeting him and getting to know him, um, because he carries that within him, that it just sparked in me that the power of healing with raw fruits, and especially with fruits. And it's like now I kind of give the spark back to him. It's like sometimes he doesn't understand that when I just explain it to him, that he sparked a lot of changes in me that now inspire him back, because he had them as an ideal in him without being lived, and now I bring them to life, and through this I bring them back to him. And it's interesting because now when I say it out, it's like it's also such a beautiful example for the different energies of a male and a female. It's like that earthy bringing into life, doing female energy, instead of that like more maybe mental mental male energy.
So you both harmonize in that way?
Yeah, definitely. So he definitely is a big inspiration for me in content, like in current times. I think on some level, actually, my mother's also a big inspiration for me. Has been and is, because she always, like, one thing, I grew up with homeopathy, and that was just through her. Like, again, with the vegetarian and with the meat, my parents were like this balance between. My dad was more on the conventional way of medicine, and my mom was like, no, our kid's gonna be brought up on homeopathy. And my mom is like, she already carried or still carries so many beautiful ideas of connection, of healing, of health. And I also see her definitely as a cycle breaker in the best way, and that like she is a big part of how I am now able to go even further and inspire her also again back. Like, inspiration is something that always goes on. Yeah.
I love that. Those are.
But I also have to say that a lot of inspiration came through social media. I've been in like more challenged years. I've been living very kind of socially isolated, you could say. I didn't have many people I would engage with, and for me, definitely the most inspiration for change came through social media, through people I followed over a long time, that just continuously would nourish certain ideas and realities in me that I was not exposed to at that time.
Right.
And to name another one is that I've been very blessed in the sense I lived in a yurt for a year, and during that time I also lived kind of in a small community. I don't know if you know what a yurt is. A yurt is a Mongolian kind of round tent thing, and I had it in the garden of a small community, and in that community there lived a woman who is a medicine woman who learned in the shamanic teachings of a African tribe, and I got the pleasure through living with her to learn from her and to learn the ways of living in connection, of living in more in connection. And I have a lot of, it's not inspiration, it's how I realize how I learn most is through being around something. And that's sometimes enough. I sometimes just need to see it once, and then it's downloaded, it's inside, it's reactivated.
Yes. I love that. That's awesome, that you can have something in your environment and it doesn't have to be there any longer, just for that short amount of time, and you can almost take on that energetic signature. You can almost take that energy with you, and it follows you wherever you go. That's amazing.
It becomes a part of you.
Right.
It doesn't stay outside.
Right. So another part of information and inspiration that you actually imparted with me that I have to thank you for so gratefully is the book by Vinskas Kolvinskas. It's called
Oh,
Bible in the 21st Century, the Planetary Healer's Manual. And when you sent that book to me, I had no idea. I didn't even know that book existed, you know? But I immediately bought it. I immediately put it in Kindle, I downloaded it, and I started going through it, and it was amazing, you know? So
it is.
talk about like what sort of wisdom did you feel like you gleaned from that book, and how did that book also kind of change your perspective?
In a way, I I have to admit I haven't fully read the book yet, because I like to just take it in the morning, randomly open one page and read like a page or a paragraph, and just have like that spark set for the day. It's like, because basically everything in this book feels absolutely on point for me, and it's like just reading a paragraph a day. It's like always putting that reset button and like, oh yeah, that's the way. And I think it really also carries that empowerment for me, that empowerment of healing and of how to live, and how to live free and yet connected, free of disease, free of limitations, but connected to ourselves and connected to this earth, connected to source, to the energies, to the nourishments, yeah, and to our own creativity, our own life force.
Yeah. So in a world, you know, where a lot of people, they would say, I mean, maybe even the majority, a lot of people don't believe that we can be free from disease, or free from limitation, or lack, or free from scarcity, or free from, you know, the ideas that kind of put a damper on your imagination. You believe that we can.
Yes. And I'm still unlearning the programming of disease and of sickness and of, yeah, all those, oh, I'm 40 now, it's normal for me to have a backache. And like, there's so many, I think a lot, like, it's again, psychosomatics, a lot of our health, and that's been a big one for me as well. Like on, you know, I mentioned my path with like eating disorder, and also for me it was also body dysmorphia, which means that no matter how you would see me when you see me outside, when I look in the mirror, I see something else, and I see something that I judge in a way that is not making me feel good or making me happy or healthy or vibrant. So kind of coming from that, it's still a relatively recent realization in this intensity, realizing that I create up here how I look, that I choose how healthy my body is, how my body looks, how strong it is, that I choose it with my thoughts and with my self-perception more, or basically only, instead of through what I actually eat and do. That are like that, they also have a strong impact, no doubt about that. But like, yeah, both of them, like, if you only work on working out, eating the right diet to be fit and healthy, and eliminating things that whoever, being it science, being it some guru, being it whoever says what's right or wrong to do, if you only focus on that doing but not on that feeling and thinking, and actually the feeling is also a big part in visualizing and yourself, I think it's hard to get there.
Okay, so you realize the power of the mind, you know?
Yeah, the power of the mind in this really physical form.
It's
But I also have to say, speaking of like, if for me there's also a lot of energetic component, which is a bit kind of a different layer. Like I was referring to that before, to me having a bit of mucus movement through me at the moment. And I do energy work, and I'm diving more and more into that. And I know that for me, I'm more and more experiencing and becoming sensitive to, in a way, it's also what we spoke about with the food, with like how everything is a feed. But sometimes there are forces coming, influencing me or my system, which might be resonating, for example, with parts of me, like on a karmic level or on a different level than physical or mental, that have an impact on me. Like me, last week, I was, for someone outside, for someone who has no idea about those things, they had a cold. For me, it was, I had an energetic attack. I had someone or something energetically blocking my upper chakras, and giving me a headache all the time, which I am not a person who usually has a headache. And that was kind of where I clocked, like, wait a moment, I think someone is blocking me off from my energy, from source. And I luckily I'm not yet in the position that I can do all of this work myself, but I luckily have wonderful people in my life that can help me when I am in such a situation. So I only want to kind of mention that on that way. Yeah, we can be, I do believe we can be free of sickness and can be very healthy and vibrant. But there are just many layers of understanding whatever is going on in our bodies. And this is one that is also very profound and takes quite a bit of a journey to get to this understanding,
Okay.
at least for me.
So what was the remedy for the energetic attack? What did you do to sort of fight back or release that?
Fighting back is not really a good way.
Yeah. What
Because
did you
that keeps in that, yeah. It's more mental work. It's not really like I'm taking a remedy or something. Yeah, it can also be like, for example, on a shamanic level, doing something physical. That's in most cases for me not necessary. That I do like whatever a cord cutting ritual where like I take a thread. Although I also have the knowledge about the ritual work, but for me it's sometimes it's necessary. But like the base for like whichever way is connecting with spirit and connecting with whoever or whatever it is that is currently attacking or influencing or resonating with my system and having this effect on me, and asking them to leave and asking them to go into the light. And if they don't want to go into the light, to be bound to earth until they're ready. And it sounds so simple, and it is simple, and it is profound, and it is not always that easy. Sometimes we need to know certain things before we are able to before we are able to let those energies go, because as I mentioned, they only come because there is a resonance on some level, and this resonance is for the highest good of all. It is for our own highest good, to heal that part that might have been with us for like lifetimes or centuries, or just a collective karmic thing, to bring healing. And that is like for me also very like the base understanding of like any physical symptom that comes it's not a sickness, it is a healing symptom. It is our system, and also this system of life itself, however big you want to put this concept, being it spirit, being it this earth, being it God, being it the universe, being it whatever, of life itself, healing.
Yes. So it's like getting out of the ego system and into the ecosystem.
Yes. Love that. Yeah.
The small body and the big body, you know?
Yeah.
I love this. And I love how you were able to illustrate the difference, the fine line between something that is simple, but is not always easy. Because I think we think that, oh, it's simple, this is simple, but it doesn't mean it's easy. But it is simple.
Yeah, So it's a very good and important distinguishment.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
thank you for bringing that, you know, and this, thank you for bringing these testimonies. Thank you for just talking and sharing your experience, you know, sharing your story, sharing the things that you've gone through and grown through and just known through, you know, life, you know?
Yeah. That's the whole journey. Life. Life is learning.
Mm-hmm.
Also realization on my personal journey. I at some point I very much identified as a life learner, kind of also as a, in a way, finding my boundary to the conventional ways of learning and of identifying as someone who has studied that or who has gone through this college or scholarship, and being like realizing life is our school.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. And thank you so much for the space, for opening the space. That really means a lot to me, because it's also something that's currently really a struggle for me. It's like, I know, without putting myself as anything better that I am, but like, I know that I have a lot to give, but I struggle with creating those spaces, those containers of where I can give. So I know if I
Okay.
have someone in front of me who needs help, I can give them this whole bouquet of things that I can offer from what I've learned, from my experiences, from all the skills that I've gathered. But
Mm-hmm.
it's hard for me to just put them out there on my own. So
Okay.
thank you for that space right now.
Given the bouquet, almost like those, like the Bach flowers, you know,
Yeah,
like
exactly.
whole bouquet, you know.
Yeah.
So thank you for giving that bouquet. Thank you for, you know, giving us a buffet of information, buffet of food
Mm-hmm.
that is very nourishing. This conversation's been very nourishing, and if anybody was hoping to gain that container or to receive you in that way, would you let people
Mm-hmm.
know before we go, if this is their first time seeing you, if you have any offerings, any services, or just any way you'd like for people to see you on that level?
Yeah, in general, anyone who resonates with me can feel free to totally reach out to me. I am at the moment offering consultations with Bachflowers that you just mentioned. It's just one of those many things that on my way I came across, or they passed my way and just kind of stuck to me, and really a really beautiful way of supporting oneself in basically any situation in life, to to bring about a change or a transformation or support in a challenge that you want to. I also offer Reiki. Um, 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 yeah, that's kind of what I have on offer presently. There are other things that are like what you said with the sparks of inspiration. I am someone, I am blessed with a lot of creative inspiration as well, but it's like, again, what I just shared, I struggle with getting them really like straight out there. So yeah, there are a lot more things I can I can do which I don't have put in a program or in an offering at the present. But yeah, if anybody feels drawn to me in any way, maybe even without knowing why or what for, they can, like, I'm very happy if you reach out to me, and maybe we find something that you can share, that we can share, exchange.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you for extending that, and you
Mm.
know, you know, this won't be the last time we hear from you. I know that you speak as well on your page, and just thank you
Yeah.
for this conversation. I loved it. We'll do it.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, please. I feel like we can talk about many things, many more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank
All
you.
right. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Take care.
You too. Have a good day. Namaste.
Bye bye. Namaste.